Welcome everybody to the Tuesday, November 19th, 2024 Board of Education meeting. We have 6 of our 7 trustees present and all of our student representatives present. We always begin our meetings with a Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to stand and join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have 2 items of recognition tonight. Throw it over to you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Our first item of recognition is a very exciting one to recognize Hamilton Elementary as a National Blue Ribbon School. Mrs. Griefor.
All right, thank you. It is very exciting. Great to see so many great faces from Hamilton. Young and old here tonight. We were really excited to be able to honor and recognize Dr. Recker and the team at Hamilton. We're pleased to recognize the school this evening for their designation as a National Blue Ribbon School. This award honors them as being one of the very best schools in the United States. Hamilton was recognized by the U.S. Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, at a ceremony in Washington, D.C. on November 7th and 8th. Only 356 schools from around the world and the country were around the country were chosen to be honored in 2024. This award affirms the hard work of students, staff, parents, and the Hamilton community. The National Blue Ribbon Award is a testament to the exceptional achievements of students and educators at each of these schools. U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona said in a press release, "The 2024 National Blue Ribbon Schools are raising the bar for our nation's students, serving as models for effective teaching and intentional collaboration in their schools and communities. As we celebrate their achievements, let us look to these schools for inspiration as we champion education as a foundation for a brighter future for every child." We'd like to congratulate the Hamilton community and especially Dr. Recker as the leader of the school. I'd like to invite Dr. Recker.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, Dr. Macheski and the Troy School District School Board. Thank you for taking the time to celebrate the Hamilton Elementary team as a 2024 National Blue Ribbon School for exemplary high performance. First, I'd like to thank you, our board and central office leaders, for challenging us to meet a simple yet demanding vision of ensuring learning for all children, and also providing us the resources and constant support we need to work towards this ambitious goal. Your trust in us as professionals is truly appreciated. I also want to thank our Hamilton families for continually collaborating with us as partners in the children of their most precious assets, their children. Together we work hard to help our kids become the best versions of themselves. And of course, I'd like to express my deep gratitude for the Hamilton staff. Their work ethic and their love for kids is unrivaled, as you can see by the crew here tonight, both current and retired, which is pretty cool. Each and every day they go above and beyond to help kids reach their full potential in both character and academics. It's been the greatest honor of my career to do such rewarding yet challenging work with such an outstanding team of people. I'm so thankful and proud of the difference they make in the lives of kids every day. Thanks.
Yeah. We need a lot of people to hold that banner, so if we could have our Hamilton staff come on up.
Oh, thank you. I'll stay in the back. Somebody else.
Slowly back, try and get out of it.
The wrong place
I
for
know,
us.
I know. I like it.
You can stand in back.
We are retired staff as well. You get on the shoulders. Come on. We even have former principal Dr. Matthews here today. Mrs. Bird, Mrs. Murphy.
Congratulations, Dr. Recker and the Hamilton team, and thank you for our retirees joining us today as well. Really appreciate you being here. Our second matter of public recognition this evening is for a different set of awards, but nonetheless important, as Kendra Montanti is going to introduce her team who helped tell the story of excellence across the Troy School District. So Kendra, if you don't mind, please coming up.
Thank you, Dr. Macheski. Could all the members of my team please come up? So I'm honored to share that the communication team received 15 Michigan School and Public Relations Association's awards. They're called MSPRA awards, the most the team has ever received. These awards are a true testament to the collaboration that can be seen in this department. I would like to thank Melissa Verdoon, Thomas Butcher, Adam Burns, Linda Alfonso, Patrice Robel, who out of retirement joined us this evening, and our newest member, Allison Hendry. Hopefully she's up here.
She's right here taking pictures.
I'm doing my... You, no. These awards would not be possible without their hard work and dedication to One Troy. The team was recognized with 3 awards of excellence and 12 awards of merit in the following categories. Awards of excellence for diversity, equity, and inclusion category for elevating voices in Comfortably Uncomfortable Conversations podcast. Marketing materials category for early college with LTU. Special purpose category for coffee with the superintendent. Awards of merit for marketing materials category for the Career Accelerator program. Marketing materials category for college and career fair. Marketing materials category for summer school catalog. Newsletter category for TSD News Supplements spring 2024 through summer 2024. Special purpose category for the Board of Education Community Conversation. Special purpose category for Smith Middle School Orchestra. Video category for Y Flexible Seating. Video category for Danielle Clippard, Outstanding Support Staff 2024. Video category for Autism Acceptance, Morris Friendship Cookies. Video category for Beyond Flying Drones with Jack Kelly. And video category for Celebrating Manufacturing Day. Audio podcast category for Inside TSD with Dr. Rich Macheski, June 2024. The team received their awards in October and will be recognized at the MSPRA conference in March. The Troy School District is incredibly proud of the Communications Department for these outstanding achievements. These awards not only highlight their creative talent, but also their dedication to effectively sharing the stories and successes of the Troy School District. We are fortunate to have such hardworking, passionate team members contribute to strengthening the bond between our schools and the community. Thank you for your unwavering commitment to world-class excellence. So thank you.
And then we have, yeah.
It's not by names, it's one, it's each of the categories.
These are all the awards. So you're gonna need one in your hand. You're gonna have to double fist it for the picture, okay? There's so many of them. Trust me, you're gonna need this as well. Nobody gets out of this. Right. Can you get us all? Congratulations. Okay, all right, so that's it for recognition. We are going to take just about a 5-minute break. You're welcome to stay for the business of the board. If you'd like to do something else tonight, this is the perfect time to exit. So we'll be back in action in about 5 minutes. Thanks. Okay, we're going to get going again. We're going to start with item 3, additions and deletions.
There are none this evening.
Thank you. 4, public communication on agenda items.
There are none?
Thank you. That moves us to the general consent agenda. This consists of A, the minutes of the October 1st, 2024 Board of Education workshop, B, the minutes of the October 15th, 2024 Board of Education meeting, C, the treasurer's report from September of 2024, and D, the decision to reschedule the January 7th, 2025 board workshop until January 14th, 2025. May I have a resolution, please? Mr. Hoff.
Therefore resolved that the Troy Board of Education takes action to approve items A, B, C, and D on the consent agenda.
Support.
A resolution by Mr. Hoff, supported by Mr. Hopt. Are there any questions or comments on the consent? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, opposed, say no. Thank you, resolution passes. Okay, that moves us to personnel.
There's none this evening?
Thank you, and then to curriculum.
And we have one item this evening. Mrs. DiPilato, Mrs. Griefor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are in with our data slides.
We won't ask as many questions this week.
As Christine is pulling that up, we appreciate the board's time at our last workshop. We went into a really in-depth analysis of our student achievement report and really wanted to share with the board how we use some of these tools to inform our school improvement and district improvement plans. Just to clarify, this is not an exhaustive list of every data set that we have. We really want the community to understand we have all of our data transparent on the My School Data website that's available to the community, but this is just a very high level view of how we use our student achievement results to inform our plans for improvement. So just a bit about, again, high level overview of what we'll go over this evening. Looking at our district goals, the context and providing an understanding of our data, and then sharing how our data is used to drive our system and processes in the district. Again, high-level overview of understanding sort of that idea of summative and formative assessments. We use summative would probably be the most, or I would say maybe the least impactful in terms of the day-to-day instruction that happens with our students, but it's important for us from a curricular standpoint in ways that we can adjust the system as a whole. And as we kind of zero in on the classroom instruction or those formative assessment pieces, that's where we begin to have those pieces in terms of how they influence the children in the day-to-day experiences. Again, just kind of recognizing some of the limitations of the summative data. We look at these pieces in kind of 3 different parts. So we look at our students in cohort and track how they do as a group. We look at some comparative insights and how we measure up to other districts in the county and state, and then really looking and zeroing in on our students in terms of what happens for their specific performance insights in the classrooms. So again, high-level overview, this is looking at our ELA stuff, and this is for grades 3 to 7. This is sort of a complicated graph, so I'll just kind of narrate just a bit what this is looking at. If you notice the percentage or those dots in the center of the bars, that represents what is our free and reduced lunch rate, and we keep an eye on that in the sense that districts that have a higher free and reduced lunch rate typically have a lower student achievement, and so we're always looking to kind of make sure we're outperforming our demographic and ensure that our students are achieving at higher levels. So we are proud to be able to be at the top of our county here. You can see represented in the green is sort of our average at that green bar, and we are represented in the brown bar on the left at 65%. Again, this is an aggregate, this is a high-level view at our ELA scores, but again, just looking at our performance over time and looking where we situate in terms of the county. Looking at, or did you want to add anything, Christine? I'm sorry. Looking at math, I didn't recognize that you switched the slide, sorry. Looking at math, again, we look at where we situate in terms of the county. We're proud to be able to sort of outperform in terms of our demographic. If you notice, again, that free and reduced lunch, we are higher than other neighboring districts in that area. And again, this is a high-level view of grades 3 through 7 in terms of our county comparison.
One of the other ways that we use our MSTEP data is to just monitor our program implementation, and so we wanted to show this slide because it looks at our 6th and 7th grade data specifically, and we see a slight improvement when we look at mathematics. This is our first year of implementation data for our IM math curriculum. We know that that is just a slight piece that's there, and we will continue to use this as one of the data points that we will study when we look at our math implementation across. But specifically, when we look at the numbers here, what we are really watching for is the number that's represented in red or dark pink at the bottom. So if we look at our mathematics going from from left to right, we see a slight decrease from that 16% into the just below 15% of students who are not proficient, moving up toward that either partially meets or exceeds. The next couple slides launches into our 8th grade PSAT data. So what's helpful for us in the middle school is that in 8th grade we align it's disruptive yet helpful. So in 7th grade we end our M-STEP trajectory and we move into PSAT 8. The PSAT 8 is then aligned with the assessments that students take from 8th grade through 11th grade. So it allows us to follow a cohort of students in a similar test. And so what we see here is our students are continuing to progress at a pretty consistent rate. There's not a huge disruption. We see that we grew, we see that our students continued to go along a pattern that was pretty consistent when it comes to ELA. And in mathematics, you'll see a very similar slide. Though our numbers did come down a little bit in math, we also see that followed the pattern for Oakland schools and for the state of Michigan.
Ms. DiPaolo, just for the audience, can you explain why there's a gap in the years that are presented?
Oh, sure. Yes, thanks for that question. So on the far left-hand side, you'll see the 2018-19 school year. That is the last school year that we assessed students before the pandemic. During the 1920 school year, we did not take any assessments at all in the state of Michigan. And then in the 2021 school year, which is also missing from here, it was an optional assessment year. So that data is available on My School Data, the 2021 school year, but it does not represent all of our students. It was optional, so only specific students chose to take it. So those scores are really not representative of our entire school community. So we pick up in 21, 22, where it became required once again for our students. So thank you for that question. Thank you. This is a similar slide to what Mrs. Griefor was talking about and looking at when it comes to free and reduced lunch. It's a little bit differently shown here. Again, we get these from the county, so they're not all formatted the same way. In this chart, what you'll see is the bar chart at the bottom identifies the percentage of free and reduced lunch for our 8th graders in the district, and where we perform based on, so the blue line there indicates our achievement in ELA, and the red line indicates our achievement in mathematics. And the other dots represent different districts throughout the county. The county average is in the dark green in the center.
Ms. DiPaolo, quick question. In the 3rd through 7th grade, the economically disadvantaged number was around 16%. And this is around 14%. Is that based on the grade for that grade students?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, this is for our 8th grade
That
cohort.
would be the aggregate for the 3 to 7.
Okay, thank you.
Our slides continue on to follow our students in our summative assessments through 11th grade. So this is our scores, our aggregate scores for the Troy School District, including Troy High School, Athens, and Troy College and Career, and their performance on the evidence-based reading and writing section of the SAT. Our students continue to perform at a consistent level across. And you'll see the same thing in mathematics. One of the things that we did share and is worth maybe talking about just for a moment during our 2-hour conversation about data with the board last week, we talked about what wasn't visible in these slides and some of the work that we're taking on as a district. And one of the things that we talked about was recognizing the students who are not performing and not meeting standards, and that our focus as an organization is on moving our students who are not meeting those standards above proficient. And that work is happening through our partnership with NSK-12. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we start to talk about formative data. But how are we serving and supporting our students with disabilities? How are we looking at our structures for intervention for our students? Those are all questions that we're asking to be able to increase our proficiency on these assessments. This is our overall performance on the SAT. So the overall measure is for students who meet or exceed expectations in both ELA and mathematics. And again, this is for the aggregate group of Troy High School, Athens, and Troy College and Career High School. And then finally, this last slide that mimics the PSAT slide, this is our SAT achievement for students, again, in red in mathematics and in blue in ELA, with the free and reduced lunch for 14% for our 11th grade group as well.
So as previously mentioned, we wanted to share just ways that we use this information in terms of improvement and as a whole. We tend to talk in acronyms, so MTSS, or our multi-tiered system of support. We talked about ways that we're collaborating and really thinking about ways that we're challenging ourselves. While we're extremely proud of our high achievement, we want to continue to find ways that we are challenging our students that are advancing, and as Ms. DiPlato said, looking to make sure that we're ensuring learning for all of our students. And so some of those areas of focus that we talked about is ensuring that those students that are not progressing, making sure they have access to Tier 1 instruction, access to content-strong teachers, and access to additional time for that learning. Additionally, we always work to train our staff to properly situate in terms of ensuring their learning in terms of how we are advancing our student achievement as well. The second piece of data that we're looking at is really, whereas the summative piece is really looking at students that previously took a test that's kind of a one-time snapshot, looking at ways that we use that formatively and ways that it's more influencing their day-to-day. We talked about just a quick overview of our multi-tiered system of support and how our staff collaborates. We're looking at ways that our staff on a regular basis is meeting to huddle and talk about students and think about ways that they are supporting one another as they support meeting the needs of the children. MTSS time, or multi-tiered system of support time, we're working to make sure that our staff is having the opportunity and time built in to look at building level trends, to talk about all children, not just some of them, bringing students with IEPs to discuss scheduling, and there's a variety of ways that our staff is looking to celebrate and review information, again, with the team that is huddling around those children. So ways that we wanted to share kind of how that data shows up on a regular basis for our staff at the building level. This is we are required to provide also 3 times per year with alignment with the 3rd grade reading bill. We're looking to make sure that our students on a regular basis are receiving more ongoing assessment in terms of reading. And so just kind of at a glance, again, we're excited and proud of our data to be meeting the needs of the children, but thinking about ways that we're meeting the needs of all of them. This is our fall data. We'll do this again in the winter and then again in the spring to monitor that progress along the way. And then again in math, this is just, again, a snapshot or a glance at this year's data as well. So really making sure that this is, again, at the aggregate kind of district level, but really being able to zoom in. Each principal and classroom level teacher has this glance as well as it relates to their building and progress.
One of the areas of formative assessment that we've introduced across secondary this year is the NWEA assessment for mathematics. We are using that in grades 6 through Algebra 1. It's a universal screener that we're in our first full year of implementation. Last year we had a few pilot classrooms that took on the NWEA. This is a measure that will help us to be able to track our student progress, but also is something that is being used by our specialists, our math specialists, to be able to intervene and support students. We actually have a couple folks who are here in the audience today who will be able to speak much better to this work. They're taking it on every day in being able to support our students. This is just a snapshot of what a classroom teacher would be able to see. This is a 9th grade classroom at Athens High School in Algebra 1. Where teachers will be able to dig in and better understand where their students are proficient or where they might need additional supports. So our teachers have been receiving support and training in NWEA this year, and it's something that we will continue to grow into as an organization. In ELA, we've leaned into the Common Lit assessment, and again, we've got some folks behind us who would be great people to answer these questions about the work and how it's being implemented in our classrooms. Common Lit is actually not only being used as a benchmark assessment tool for us to be able to look at student progress with a starting point, but it also has units that can be used, and we've adopted those units in some of our intervention structures throughout the secondary part of our organization. So you can see here, this is a sample of what the classroom report would look like for Common Lit. If I were a 7th grade teacher, that's what this is looking at in a 7th grade classroom. I would be able to see how my students are faring on any one of these standards, and then be able to dig in or reflect on my lesson perhaps and recognize that 7.4, most of my students are doing very well. So either I taught that very well or they came to me with that prior knowledge, right, depending on when I'm using that assessment.
So again, we went through this ad nauseum with the board of the last meeting, but we really wanted to be able to share with our community just again how we use this in terms of district improvement, looking at both summative and formative pieces to improve our process and improve those experiences for our students.
We do have a few data points that we use for our celebration.
So the ever increasing enrollment at the preschool is really exciting. That's really our first layer of what we call MTSS, like I mentioned, and providing access, and we really appreciate the support of the board and in how we've just been able to navigate that as a group. These students having access to preschool, we know, really better situates those experiences. We expect that number to continue to grow with universal preschool supports, and it's something that we're really proud of here in the district.
At the International Academy East, we do study and watch our IB diploma acquisition, and last year we had a little blip in the screen, and Mr. Griffin, I was going to call him Mr.
Yeah.
Griefor, Mr. Griffin, I was going to marry him off to you. Mr. Griffin over at IA with Ms. Noss spends quite a bit of time working in collaboration with the other 2 campuses to look at our acquisition rates. And the teachers last year had a goal in being able to bring back and improve upon those full IB acquisition rates. And we can see that they've started to come back from last year's group. I'm sure Nareda will be contributing to some very high scores as we think about the end of this coming year. What's important to know is this is about the IB diploma. This is not about the Troy School District diploma. So 100% of our graduating class of 2024 received a Troy School District diploma. In addition to that, 81% of them also received an International Baccalaureate diploma.
You know, I forgot to ask this last week. The dip last year at 72, did we see that at Central Campus as well?
We saw a small dip at Central, but Troy did. IA East had a bigger dip than any of the other campuses.
And then how about this year? How do we compare to Central Campus?
We are very close. It's 85%, so
Okay.
we're within that same range.
Okay.
These scores up here really identify, we look at and study our AP enrollment as well as our AP achievement in the Troy School District. So annually, we actually give about 4,700 AP exams in the Troy School District. What's represented on here is a study of each graduating class. So from 2022-3 school year to the 23-24 school year, we saw a significant amount of growth in our students participating in our AP courses. The first row across that looks at college culture looks at the percentage of students in a graduating class who took an AP exam at any point in their high school, regardless of score. So I think it's pretty incredible to reflect on the numbers that are represented here, which is 70% of the graduating class of Athens High School and 75% of the graduating class of Troy High School took an AP exam at some point during their high school career. We know that students participating in those courses are exposed to different structures that give them a higher level of preparedness for success in college. And so we're really glad to see that we have students who are pushing themselves to try and experience and not just take the class, but also take the exam. Because we do have students who might take the class and then say, I don't know if the exam's gonna be right for me, but they've pushed themselves. They've embraced being a risk taker and taken on that exam. The college credit row that's following it is about any student who, in the graduating class, who scored a 3 or higher on one of their AP exams. So you can see that a 3 or higher often provides students with college credit. So that's an indicator of success for us when we're looking at student success. And then the college optimization is the percentage of students who took 5 or more AP exams where at least one of the exams was taken in 9th or 10th grade. And the reason that the College Board values that is because the College Board values having your experience spread over 4 years and not having 5 or 6 APs in your junior year or your senior year. And that they really do look for that spread in the experience. And we have about a quarter and a third of our senior class taking 5 or more of those exams, with one of them being in 9th or 10th grade. So We know that this is a very important data point for our community, and we will continue to watch this. As part of our APs, one of the things that we're studying specifically is our enrollment in 11th grade AP English, and this is because of our changes in our AP curriculum. Our changes in our ELA curriculum at the high school. The juniors this year, we have 42% of the junior class is enrolled in AP 11 ELA. These students are students who may have participated in one of our pilot classrooms in 9th grade, and then the pilot ran for them in 10th grade, and now they're in 11th grade. Next year's juniors will be the students who took the new curriculum all of whom took the new curriculum in 9 and in 10. So this is just enrollment data, right? So we haven't seen performance data from this group, but we'll be looking at that as we go into next year to see how they've performed this spring, and then we'll be watching for that enrollment again as we go into the fall of next year. Our seal of biliteracy is a new data point that we're continuing to watch. We know that throughout our community, we have a wide variety of languages, and we value very highly the different cultures that are represented in Troy. A seal of biliteracy is something that a student can test to be able to demonstrate and earn that seal on their diploma. It is definitely something that is favorable for students to be able to carry forward and talk with employers about. For many of our students, they aren't eligible for that seal of biliteracy until their senior year, and so we want to make sure that more students are aware of it, and they work with their high school counselors to learn about if it's available to them based on the language that they're studying. This is a data point that we are incredibly proud of here in the Troy School District. This is our graduation rate of students who have graduated in the 4-year cohort at Troy College and Career High School. So back in 2019, this board made a commitment to purchasing the Troy Learning Center and relocating the Troy College and Career High School from Niles to a new facility. That commitment from this board allowed that program to begin to really rethink itself. And I think it's evident, started a revolution there, right? And we've seen just great leadership and a change in programming where we've seen our graduation rate grow from 32% to 83% last year. Last year we graduated the largest class at a TCCHS that they've ever graduated. We've been housing it at the Troy High School auditorium, and we talked about last year, we felt like we were tight, like we might need a bigger space in our future. So that's something that we're very hopeful of, but I think also speaks to the incredible culture that Angela Milanov has set at TCCHS, and I know that Christian would speak of also enjoying that there. The last piece that we wanted to celebrate and add here was, we have a very robust career and technical education program at both of our high schools in the Troy School District. It's something we're very proud of. Many of those programs are listed in those squares there. We had more than 290 students from the class of 2024 earn completer status, and that means that they completed the full trajectory of these CTE courses that are linked together. So they didn't just dabble a little bit here and a little bit there, but they saw it from beginning to end. And for many of our students, that's a series of 4 courses that they're taking to be able to demonstrate their knowledge at the end and earn that completer status. So something that we are also very proud of. And that concludes our program.
Thank you.
We also just want to express our gratitude. We shared this at the workshop, but this is the work of so many, and our staff is incredibly devoted, as are our parents, and just that partnership is incredibly important to our students. We have really high standards here, and we're proud of our students and the excellence that these scores show clearly, but we always are in a cycle of continuous improvement, and we're proud to be able to showcase the work of our staff today.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead.
So I know we talked about this quite a bit last week, but for the benefit of our public. So just a couple of things. One, when we look at the math PSAT 8, so the scores that are on there now are now with the full implementation of our new math middle school curriculum. So what year are we looking at in terms of the PSAT when we'll kind of get to see the full implementation of our new math curriculum in middle school?
So this year's 7th graders will move into 8th grade next year. And so at the end of their 8th grade year next year, that will be our first cohort that has gone all the way through with 3 years of our math curriculum. So it would be in the spring of 2026 that we would be looking at how our students, the spring, we're watching constantly.
Right.
But the spring of 2026 will be our first cohort of students who have gone all the way through 3 years with that IM curriculum.
And then in terms of, because AP, or English isn't, another one where we've made some changes. So you did mention that we'll be looking at looking, it would be not in 2025, but 2026. So the AP 11 English exams in 2026 are going to be indicative of, or, will be one data point in terms of looking at how that, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. I know we
Thank you so much.
drilled you last week. Okay, next we have business. Mr. Trudell. You have a lot tonight. We were teasing you last month about not having much, and so now we're paying the price.
I had to hold out for a couple months before I really loaded it up here. So thank you and good evening, Board of Education. Tonight we do have our fiscal year 2024 financial audit for presentation. So if you could welcome Michael Walsh, Senior Manager from Plant Moraine. He's going to go through this presentation, and then subsequent to that we will have a consideration to formally accept that.
Great, thank you. Mr. Walsh, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present the 2024 audit results this year, and certainly good results to report on. So happy to share that with the board. So just quickly to cover some highlights here. All school districts are required to have their financial statements audited by an independent auditor and submitted to the state of Michigan on an annual basis by November 1st. And that audit really just ensures that that the district is compliant with governmental accounting standards, and that the financial statements are free of material error. So happy to report that for 2024, the financial statement audit results we provided an unmodified or clean audit opinion. That's the highest level of assurance that we can provide that the district's financial statements are materially stated. The districts are also required to have a separate compliance audit, both on federal grants and making sure they're adhering to the federal requirements, and then also a separate compliance audit on bond and sinking fund expenditures and making sure they're in accordance with the proper ballot languages. So from a federal program perspective, happy to also report that we had another unmodified opinion or a clean audit opinion. We did not identify any findings, didn't have any question costs or anything of that nature this year. And this year, our major program that we would have audited was the Education Stabilization Fund, or those ESSER dollars that the district would have received. From the bond and sinking fund compliance audit, so we would have looked at bond and sinking fund expenditures throughout the year. Didn't identify any issues with those expenditures that we tested, so we found that they were in accordance with the applicable requirements. We also looked at budgeting at compliance and found that the district was compliant from a budgeting standpoint. And then finally, the district does prepare an annual comprehensive financial report. So that's basically that report provides additional information beyond what is required by the state. There's only a few school districts in the state of Michigan that go through that exercise of preparing that report. So the district would have received the Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting for fiscal year 2023. So I want to congratulate the district and the business office on that certificate, and certainly with the expectation that they would receive a similar certificate for 2024. So I wanted to dive into the numbers a little bit, and before we get into some of the fund numbers, just wanted to quickly provide a quick highlight of where the district is in terms of some of the those COVID non-recurring dollars that school districts across the state would have received. So this is a point in time as of June 30, 2024. So this is meant to capture really all the funding that was allocated to the district and spent to the district really from the pandemic all the way through June 30, 2024. So as you can see here, total allocation or total award, it was about $29 million. The district's largest spent all of that as of June 30, 2024. Some of the remaining funding was spent in fiscal year '25, but primarily the final programs, that ESSER 3 program specifically, all districts had to spend that by September 30th of 2024. So certainly right on track with that. But really, this slide just wants the highlights or main takeaways from this slide is that these are non-recurring dollars. So that $29 million the district will not receive in the future, or any districts across the state of Michigan for that matter. So just, the importance of budgeting and maintaining an appropriate cost structure, knowing that these funding resources are not to continue in the future.
And before you go on, I just want to speak to this because I'm really proud of our financial team on this. We've been in national conferences where speakers are lecturing all of the school districts about spending this ESSER money on recurring expenses. And our financial team was very careful to make sure they were only spending this on things that were not recurring so that we wouldn't hit a fiscal cliff when the money's all gone. So I want to thank our financial team for really careful stewardship of these funds and allowing us to invest $29 million into our kids, specifically designed around recovery after COVID. Or during and after, actually. So, sorry, keep going.
So jumping into the numbers a little bit here, want to quickly touch on the different major funds of the district and then the non-major funds on the end there. So this is revenue and expenditures for the year ended June 30, 2024. The two major funds of the district, the general fund, the main operating fund on the left there. In the middle is the 2023 capital projects fund. So that relates to that first series of the new bond that was just passed recently. So about $177.1 million was received last year. As you can see here, the district spent about $20.9 million out of that fund, and the ending fund balance is about $178 million as of June 30, 2024. Those non-major funds on the right-hand side there, that represents all the special revenue funds that the district had, which would include the food service fund, preschool, community service, funded amongst a few others, the debt service funds that are meant to pay off some of the debt obligations, and then some of the other non-major capital projects funds, which would include the 2019 capital projects fund and the sinking fund. The general fund will be the main focus of the rest of the PowerPoint presentation here today, so won't go into too great a detail on this slide, but we'll certainly get into the numbers here on the next couple slides. So first we want to look at general fund revenue on this circle graph here, and this is broken out by the different funding sources of that revenue. So total general fund revenue for the district came in just under $195 million for the year ended June 30, 2024. As you can see in that orange bucket there, the state source revenue is your largest revenue source at about 67%. This would include the foundation allowance, and we'll talk about how significant that is on the next slide, as well as some of the other categorical revenues that the district receives from the state. Included in that amount is about $17.1 million of that 147C revenue. Just as a reminder, that's the revenue that comes in from the state to fund retirement costs for district employees. So all districts within the state recognize that as a revenue, turn around and pay that to the Office of Retirement Systems, and recognize that as an expenditure as well. So there's really no impact on your fund balance for that $17 million. The teal bucket there is the next largest component at about 23%. That's local source revenue. Most of that is made up of property tax revenue. We'll see that amount on the next slide as well. That federal revenue at about $8.2 million. Included in that is about $4.2 million of those ESSER non-recurring funds that was subject to single audit this year. And then finally, the blue bucket there at $12.3 million is inter-district revenue. That's primarily made up of about $10.2 million of special ed funding that the district receives from Oakland schools. So the next slide just is meant to break out just the significance of that foundation allowance, which is based on enrollment, and then the foundation allowance set by the state of Michigan. So that makes up about 45% of the district's revenue. That property tax revenue in blue there at 21% or $40.7 million. That's included in that local source revenue component on the previous slide, but that's all 21% of that comes from property tax revenues received from the citizens of Troy. The last major bucket there is that other state and local source revenue. That's just made up of that 147C dollars, some other local sources, and then some other state categoricals there. Must have clicked the wrong button there. So the next few slides, we just want to look at general fund expenditures. The first slide breaks it out by object, so really looking at where those dollars are being spent. So total expenditures came in at $191 million for the district this year. 80% of that is going to district employees. It's going to salaries, wages, and benefits, and that's that teal bucket there. So another way we like to talk about this is really every dollar that comes out of the general fund, 80 cents of that dollar is going to district employees. Purchase services makes up the next largest component at 15%. Most of that is actually contracted workers, so still people costs of the district. Those contracted workers would be substitute teachers, transportation and custodial workers, things of that nature. There's also some tuition, training, and software costs baked into there. But really, when you kind of combine the two, about 95% of all expenditures are really people costs to the district. Just wanted to point out as well that salaries and employee benefits, also including that 80% of that $153 million, is that 147C, the expenditure side of that. So that's about $17.1 million of that pool of dollars. This next slide just shows that those general fund expenditures, that same pool on the previous slide, and breaks it out by function as defined by the state of Michigan. So this is really looking at, where are these dollars, what department effectively are these dollars going to? So as you can see there, direct instruction makes up the largest percentage at 65%. These would be primarily teacher costs and costs directly in the classroom. Just for reference there, at the top of the slide here, you'll see that Oakland County average. There's always kind of a year lag on this, but the Oakland County average for fiscal year 23 was about 60%. So you see Troy at 65%, certainly much higher than the Oakland County average, and really focusing on spending those dollars in the classroom.
And again, I just for the public, for the last 13 years, we've had that same spread. We're always at the top of the county in terms of the amount of money we spend on direct instruction relative to the rest of the school districts. So that's a point of pride for us that we put every available dollar into instruction.
The second largest piece there is that indirect instruction at about just under 14%. Those would be counselors, librarians, other personnel that kind of help students just outside the classroom. So really when you combine those two, you're looking at about 80% of instruction-related expenditures. A lot of the other departments there that you see there, really if you look at this, really for the past couple of years there in terms of from a percentage standpoint, it's pretty consistent with historical percentages, plus or minus about 1%. So the next few slides, just want to talk a little bit more about just some comparison to some prior years on a couple key metrics that impact school finance. So the first slide here just shows Troy, the per pupil membership, which is that line graph, the per pupil membership, which is the bar graph, and then the foundation allowance set by the state, which is the line graph. So kind of moving left to right here, we start with 08, 09. That was just for reference. That was the first year, or a year prior to a very significant cut in that foundation allowance that was seen across the state. So it really took until 2019-2020 school year for that foundation allowance to then get back up and exceed what that foundation allowance was in 08, 09. Kind of moving forward, we see kind of the trend is really in 21 to 22 through 23, 24, we've seen some pretty significant increases in that foundation allowance across the state for those last couple of years. And then into 24, 25, we're expecting that foundation allowance to remain steady. There's some other funding mechanisms that's going to provide some other funding sources from the state, but the foundation allowance for all school districts is expected to stay flat.
Let's be clear on that, though. So the net effect, though, Mr. Judell calculated, we gained about 5.3%. Is that correct? So in terms of functional dollars, we're actually about $550 more per person this year than last year. So this slide bothers me because it suggests that we're flat, but we actually captured a 5.3% increase over last year in functional dollars.
Yeah, there's additional funding going to retirement costs that's going to offset or expand additional funding for districts. So
And then my second question is, for all these numbers, none of these are inflation adjusted?
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, so this is just, flat true dollars, no inflation impact, which, as you can imagine, from 08, 09 to today is.
We've done that chart. We know what it looks like.
Yep.
It's not pretty.
And then on the bar graph side, just from an enrollment perspective, so in 2020, just want to point out in 2020 to 21, you see that super blend kind of comment at the top there. So just as a reminder, kind of coming out of the pandemic, the state identified and was aware that, they were expecting pretty significant decreases in enrollment. So to offset that from a funding perspective, they allowed districts to weigh their enrollment from pre-pandemic levels in that 2021 year, which was really just a one-time fix. So then in 21-22, the weighting went back to kind of the original scale, post-COVID enrollment figures, and so that's why you kind of see that drop in 2021 to 21-22. So just kind of wanted to point that out. When you kind of look at the overall enrollment trend over the
And then one last question on this one. Plant Moran gave us our forecast for this year, and it was extremely accurate, right? How far off are we from what we anticipated with that 12,359? Was it?
About 60 right now.
Yeah, it's about 60.
We're about 60 below expected or above?
Yeah, Michael, is that the traditional calculation or
Yeah.
is that just the fall number?
That's based on the first state aid status report. So,
Yeah,
I thought we were even closer.
There's a fall number, but then it gets blended with spring.
Oh, because it blended. I was going to say, our fall number was close, they were within 11 or 12 students? So, I mean, we had a very accurate estimate. Okay. Sorry about that. Keep going.
Nope. And I'm sure as part of that analysis, and the trend there is really consistent with what we see across all our school districts across the state. Just from an enrollment perspective, there's just generally a declining birth rate seen across the state and really across the U.S. that's driving a lot of those projections. So this slide, just kind of want to quickly compare Troy schools in terms of funding from a foundation allowance perspective to some of its peer districts in Oakland County. So, kind of starting from the top there, and so the state set the lowest funded districts at a $9,608 per pupil floor for 23-24. So that was a minimum increase of about $458 per student or per pupil. For Troy, they would have received a $520 per pupil increase in 23-24 to that $10,394 per pupil dollar amount that you see there. So Troy's kind of really right in the middle there. $10,000 per pupil compared to the Birmingham Bloomfields at over $13,000 per pupil. So just kind of wanted to show that for analysis. So kind of wrapping everything up from a last slide perspective, really wanted to focus on the general fund balance as of June 30, 2024, and kind of compare that over the past 10 years. So as of June 30, 2024, the district had about $36.7 million of fund balance. A common metric there that you see on that line graph is fund balance as a percentage of total expenditure. So the district came in at about 19.21% from that metric. Just a couple of comparison metrics here as well. The statewide fund balance as a percentage of expenditure average for fiscal year 23, again, we're kind of a year lag behind until that information is available. That came in at 21.86% for fiscal year 23. So Troy at 19.21% for fiscal year 24 is just under that average. And we continue to see that average kind of to bump up. So the 2020 average from a statewide perspective was about 20.3%. So you kind of see that 1% increase year over year, and we've kind of seen that trend, which is really consistent with what we're seeing here at Troy from 21 to 24. A lot of districts have had the benefit of those COVID dollars and those non-recurring COVID dollars, and we've seen fund balance increase. So again, pretty consistent trend with the state, just under that statewide average. But really, when you look at it from a 10-year perspective, Troy's never dipped down below $20 million of fund balance in any of those years. That fund balance as a percentage of total expenditures has always been above 15%. So really just demonstrating strong fiscal responsibility over that period.
So, quick comment. We have about $6 million that we've used from federal fund dollars. If we remove that, it's going to be at the 30 million range, which is about 15% again of the fund balance.
Yeah, so I think total ESSER expenditures for fiscal year '24 was 4.2 million. So,
4 million, okay.
Yeah, if you drop that out of there, that would certainly get you closer to that 15%.
Closer to that 15%.
So we'd lose that drop and we'd be pretty equivalent to last year then, yeah.
And with those COVID dollars, those are reimbursement rate based, so there is, you do get the revenue to offset the expenditure, but certainly there's additional opportunities that you can provide with having, the $29 million at your disposal over that 3-year term.
And then if we could just highlight too, in terms of looking at the percentages and the amount of dollars, but when it comes down to it, the money that we have in the fund balance represents about 10 weeks of operating expenses. So if the state, for whatever reason, whether it was late to approve a budget or whatever, and there was no money coming to the districts, this is our piggy bank, right? This is where we draw the money out of.
Yep.
And so really, we're at about 10 weeks of operating expenses if for some reason we're not receiving money from the state.
Yep.
Which I'm sure has happened.
Well, and more than that, the money goes in and out of those accounts as we pay, correct? That money rarely just stays there. We're using that, that's operating capital while we're waiting for the state, even when they're on time.
Right.
So it prevents short-term loan.
Yeah, that metric was looked at very closely too.
Yeah.
Directly or during the pandemic, there were a lot of discussion around very significant cuts to that pupil foundation allowance. So that metric became especially important during that time. And then, just to mention that from a statewide average for fiscal year 2023, that was about 11 weeks of operation was the statewide average. So again, just under that amount.
So we're actually below average on that.
So that was it from the PowerPoint. Just want to thank Dan and Aral and the whole business office for all their professionalism, all their help and cooperation, and working with the audit this year. I always say that they have their day jobs, their day-to-day jobs, and then they have to deal with us from an audit perspective and all our requests and questions. So really appreciate all the help.
Thanks, Michael. Does anyone have any more questions? Go ahead, Mina.
I have a couple. At the meeting last week, one of your colleagues mentioned that this year there was an additional or more stringent audit standard. Can you just address that really quickly, and then how we fared with the more stringent standard, and maybe in comparison to other districts?
Yep. So there's a new auditing standard this year, so nothing that impacted your financial statements or financial results. It was really more of a requirement on our end where we just had to gain a deeper understanding of district's internal controls, what the IT environment looks like, how that impacts the numbers. And that impacted both the basic financial statement as well as the single audit. And the single audit, I think, is where it was probably even more impactful. So as a result of that, we did see some more, we had more findings from a single audit perspective. We had more deficiencies in internal controls, generally speaking, that we saw across our audits. So here again, no findings, no question costs, no deficiencies in internal control to report. So even with that kind of enhanced scope, similar results to what we've seen historically.
So when you measure more findings, you mean in other districts?
Yes, correct. Yeah, findings in other districts. Yes, not here. Yep.
Not here, yeah.
And then if you could go back to maybe the first slide that breaks down where our money comes from, because our community did just pass a millage.
Operating millage.
Yeah, operating millage, hold harmless. So I just, what part of that, 44 million, if you know the number or about of that 44 million, is attributed to
what I thought it was, the 23.
To the millage and home harvest that was just passed. And I just want to emphasize that for our community, I want to thank them for passing that in 2 weeks ago, I guess, at this point. Or yeah, 2 weeks
Yep.
ago. And just so they can see that it is a significant portion, it's a significant portion of our overall funding.
And now we won't ask him again for 20 years. So,
On this slide here, it's that your property tax revenue is at $40.6 million, so about 21% of total revenue sources.
so it's the navy blue, okay.
Yeah, is from those villages.
Okay.
Okay,
So
great.
that was the one that was renewed 2
Yes.
weeks ago. Exact same renewal.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I don't have a question as much as I just want to say thank you, Dan, because knowing our business office turned over this
Yeah.
year, like, I think that to be able to do all of that, like, kudos to that team. Just as we think about funding, kudos to Rich and Carl for going up and helping legislators know that our teachers are what matter most. So our categorical this year went to staffing, which I think is missed in these numbers, that we advocated for our staff. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we can really thank Aurel, he's sitting in the back there. He gave everybody front row seats here, so.
Yeah, where is he? There
Aurel's
he is. I was
back
going to say, I wondered why you weren't here tonight. Is he hiding? So,
He left
thank
us
you.
up front. Yeah, this was his night job for pretty much all of summer, so a lot of credit goes to him for coming into a new district in the midst of an audit, trying to go through all of these historic levels of grants. It's a true challenge, but he got his way through it with ease, and we're lucky to have him here. So for your consideration tonight is just to formally accept this financial audit report.
Okay, great. We're being asked to accept the 2023-2024 audit report. May I have a resolution, please? Mr. Hopt?
Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Education accept and approve the Troy School District's audited 2024 financial statements as presented by Plant Moraine.
Support.
I think I have two on that. I'm going to just go with the H's again. So I've moved by Mr. Hopt, supported by Mr. Hoff. Are there any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, opposed, say no. Thank you. Resolution passes, and thank you, Mr. Trebek.
I got 5 more.
Oh, I know, I was going to say,
Yeah, 5 more.
thank you for that, but that's, 8C.
So
Let's
next
talk
up-
ovens.
Yep, so next up for consideration is replacement ovens at Hill, Leonard, and Troy Union Elementaries. So we're looking to replace, through our food service fund, using some of the excess fund balance that we had, the purchase of ovens across the district, but these 3 elementary schools are next in line. So for your review, we did have pricing reviewed and obtained by Gail Moran, our food service liaison, and it is recommended to award this bid to Stafford and Smith in the amount of $118,203.
Great. We're being asked to purchase replacement ovens for Hill, Leonard, and Troy Union. May I have a resolution, please? Ms. Alish?
Be it therefore resolved that the purchase of 3 Unox ovens be awarded to Sanford Smith in the amount of $118,203.00, and that this amount be approved as an expenditure of the food service fund.
Support.
Thank you. A resolution by Ms. Alish, supported by Ms. Zane. Are there any questions or comments about the ovens? Oh, we do have one.
Not the ovens, so just,
Are they crispy?
we provide better food. So the food service fund is one of those where we have access money in there, and we do have to, we're required by law to.
Spend it out.
Good. Okay. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Thank you. Resolution passes. 8E, oh, sorry, 8D.
So
On two
next for
side here.
consideration is the new Smith Middle School. We did previously bid out pretty much all of the categories for construction, with landscaping being one that we pulled out of the last approval, just for a little bit more review. And so after some further discussions, we did bring this one back to you tonight for your approval. So we did obtain competitive bids on this landscaping work. This is primarily the site work. There's not a lot of actual involvement. There's no irrigation. You know, it's just really just basic plantings, benches, the seed, soil, some of the excavation work. So we did want to award this one with your approval to Heritage and Company in the amount of $1,239,877.
All right, thank you. We're being asked to purchase basic landscaping for the new Smith Middle School. May I have a resolution, please? Ms. Sunny?
Be it therefore resolved that the bid for landscaping work at the new Smith Middle School be awarded to Heritage and Company, Inc. in the amount of $1,239,877, and that this amount be approved as an expenditure of the Capital Projects Fund.
Support.
A resolution by Ms. Sene, supported by Mr. Hoff. Are there any questions or comments about this? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, say no. Thank you. We have landscaping.
No trees.
Okay, no trees yet. Yeah. 8E.
So next for your consideration is a 2025 roof replacement project. So the district has a roof replacement schedule essentially that we follow every year. So we try to chip away at it building by building. We don't do entire roofs at the same time. We do sections of roofs. So typically you will see small sections of each roof replaced in tandem with other buildings just to spread some of that work out. So our operations department did receive bids and reviewed them with WeatherTech Consulting Group, who handles all of our roofing within the district. So tonight we do have replacements for Baker Middle School, Troy Union Elementary, and this building here. So the recommendation is to approve in the amount of $1,296,458.
Okay, we're being asked to approve roof replacements for the Services Building, Baker, and Troy Union. May I have a resolution, please?
I can do it again.
Ms. Sene?
Be it therefore resolved that the bid for roof replacement be awarded as follows, and that this amount be approved as an expenditure of the Capital Projects Fund. Division 7, awarded to Services Building at $88,922. Royal Roofing to Baker and Troy Union at the amount of $1,145,800, with a contingency of 5% at $61,736, with the total amount of $1,296,458.
Support.
Resolution by Ms. Sene, supported by Ms. Alish. Are there any questions or comments on that? Mr. Hoff?
Can you define who divisions, or what Division 7 is that we're voting on for Services Building?
I want to say it's near the back of the building. So there's different sections that WeatherTech has identified on each building.
It's not a company,
It's
a
probably
No,
a-
it's,
portion.
yeah, it's a portion section of the building that we've
Okay.
identified. So, you know, this building might have 8 to 10 sections. A high school might have 30 sections.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, it's not a
But
company.
that's not, so what's the company that,
Royal. Ah,
well, that one's, because this one's.
did
Royal
it,
Roofing.
it just didn't line up? That's, okay. So Royal Roofing is doing all three?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just one.
We just have a tabbing issue.
I remembered that there was 2 different roofing companies were going to split it up.
It does say
Oh,
separate
okay.
roofing
Or
company.
yeah, in this case, Division 7 is the roofing company.
It's a- okay.
That's doing
That's
this building.
She just made that other part up.
Well, there are different divisions of a building too.
I know, I'm teasing you.
It
Okay.
says roof area C.
So Division 7 is the company.
It is the company
So
name.
Royal is doing Baker and Troy Union. They're a little bit newer to the district, but we've vetted them out with other districts and it's
Okay.
very reliable, so.
Okay, good. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, opposed, say no. All right, thank you. That takes us to 8F.
So next is consideration for some technology infrastructure upgrades. As we discussed at the last workshop, we did have a server failure that did lead to some printing and phone issues. The district unfortunately had to rebuild those servers from scratch. Our backup solution isn't as easy to pull some of those backups from. So this is kind of a 2-part upgrade, one being new servers and then the virtualization of those servers. So the ease of use that the district has in accessing those servers will be streamlined through a company called Scale Technologies. And then the secondary part of that is the backup software itself. So there's a small software component to this purchase, and that is Veeam is the brand for the software. So we're trying to upgrade these servers, but then also have better redundancy. So in a case where we do have a server failure, we do have the quicker capability to restore those servers and get things up and running much quicker than we did over the last couple of months. So the award recommended tonight is to People Driven Technology in the amount of $443,866.88. And then this will be mostly funded by the 2023 capital project, and then the software component by the general fund.
Okay, great. We're being asked to purchase new servers and backup software for the entire district. May I have a resolution, please? Mr. Hoff?
Be it therefore resolved that the contract for new servers and backup software be awarded to People Driven Technology in the amount of $443,866.88, and that this amount be approved as an expenditure of the Capital Projects Fund and General Fund.
Support.
Thank you. A resolution by Mr. Hoff, supported by Ms. Alish. Are there questions or comments on this? Go ahead.
Just a quick comment about the server failures. It wasn't any classroom data or school data. It was just the printer servers that failed, right?
Yeah, so the print server, there's various servers. We have 100 different servers on these hard drives essentially, and then you have a software to access those servers. So the servers that failed had our printing servers, and then it also had some phone set up, so we had to rebuild the phone server. But the print server in particular, the issue was rather than just simply restoring it, they had to go through and build it one by one, which takes time. During that process, there's a default setting in some of the software that would project out the printers to all the computers, and in this case, the MacBooks across the district, which we are majority users of MacBooks here in Troy schools. And so what happened was it just sent a flood of printers to every computer, so much that the Mac just shut off the network connection. And so what we thought was just the internet going down. They had to escalate this all the way up through Dr. Macheski's contact at Apple to get Tier 3 engineers on site at Barnard Elementary and actually start reading logs as to what is going on here. Why is the network shut off, specifically on a MacBook? iPads still work, PC laptops still work. It was just related to MacBooks. So they eventually isolated the issue to the paper cut software that we have and a setting that was enabled by default to where when they restored the server, reinstalled the software, that was turned on, which was turned off previously. So,
I see.
so it wreaked havoc across the district on those computers, but we were
Can
fortunate
imagine.
to get the proper support and their ongoing support too. Apple's leaving that ticket open for us for a period of time as well. So.
Now, at the workshop, you made a comment that the backup server, our backup server was actually in Troy High.
Yeah,
Is the new server going to be at a different outside location now?
So we are going to utilize our current backup solution still to have some redundancy, but the new Veeam software will have backups at Troy High, but also backups in the cloud.
Cloud-based.
So something we did not have previously was cloud backups.
Right.
So this will allow for that, and then we would then have multiple levels of redundancy.
Okay, Ms. Alish.
That was my comment and question, just to
Okay.
differentiate what we were getting.
I have one question on this, and that is, we're talking about this purchase immediately following the failure. Did we have to move this purchase up from when we planned to buy it, or was this already what we had planned? Was this the time period where we had planned to make that purchase?
There was bond dollars allocated for these purchases. I think this definitely escalated the priority of this purchase. So right now, they're looking to potentially install the new servers over Thanksgiving, even over the Christmas break. So for now, though, the server has been rebuilt. It's functioning. The settings are all properly tweaked. So now that that's up and running, they can focus on replacing it to ensure that we just don't have these issues.
And if we didn't have this problem, when would we have done this replacement? Like within the next year, within the next
Yeah,
3
I would say
years?
this
Like, I
probably
just
would've
wonder,
been
like,
yeah.
are we going to have a problem on the back end because now we moved this purchase up, 2 years, so we're going
Yeah,
to need to buy
this-
it 2 years at the end?
Tentatively was probably a summertime project coming
Okay.
up.
So less than a year.
Yeah, there's additional server upgrades to follow, but specifically we wanted to do these ones now and in
Yeah.
the immediate future, so.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, great, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, opposed, say no. All right, we have new servers and backup in the cloud. Okay, that takes us to electric buses.
So.
Our
the
entire
next
fleet.
one is for the purchase of 2 electric buses, and this would be.
Okay,
funded-
2.
Yep, this would be funded by the Section 74B grant through the state of Michigan. So this was actually one of Varel's first things that he did when he came to Troy was work with Hoekstra and finalize this grant and all of the requirements to get it submitted to the state. So through all of that work, we did finalize this purchase with Hoekstra. They were the low bidder amongst the 3 bids that we got. And then the district general fund cost will be around $80,000.
Okay.
And that will be primarily related to the cost of the chargers and the installation of those chargers. So, and then from that, we do have a consultant that we're working with to apply for some IRS tax credits on those as well. So we're hoping to get some money back out of that 80 grand through DTE and then through the IRS as well.
Okay, great. We're being asked to purchase 2 electric buses for a trial period, a pilot in our district. Go ahead, Salish.
Be it therefore resolved that the bid for 2 electric school buses be awarded to Hoekstra Transportation in the amount of $815,082.00, and that this amount be approved as an expenditure of the 74B Clean Bus Energy Grant.
Support.
It has to be the 2 of you because you both drive electric vehicles. So I have a resolution by Ms. Salish, supported by Ms. Lene. Are there questions or comments on this? Go ahead.
So you mentioned that in addition to this, there would be about $80,000 in district general funds. What is just a ballpark number, typical cost of just 2 regular
Diesel buses of this size.
So a 77 passenger diesel bus is in the 140, 150 range.
Yeah. So if we were to buy 2 buses, it would be, let's call it $300,000.
Yes, that's a fair number, yep. Yeah, these are significantly more right now, hence the grant dollars to cover it. We do have $823,000 of grant funding through this grant, so there will be a small allocation left. We'll certainly see if we're allowed to use that or not towards the cost of the charger.
But even if we don't, the cost out of pocket to us is around $40,000 a bus.
Yes.
Versus $140,000 for a diesel
Prior
bus.
to any rebates.
And the purchase here, the $815,000 that's covered by the grant, we own the buses, it's not a lease, correct? So we're not turning them in, this is our asset.
We would own it, yes.
Okay.
Quick question, though. We got an EPA grant as well of $200,000 per bus, I think. Is that part of this also, or is that still available for us?
Yeah, my understanding of this grant is you have to apply for that EPA grant and get that funding, and then they kind of send it to the state, and then the state sends us the total.
Got it, okay.
So we used partially the EPA grant, and then the rest, the state gave us that Clean Bus grant?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
So this is essentially, it's almost a free pilot for us to really
More or less, yeah.
put some buses into service and see how the EVs work compared to the diesels.
Pontiac Schools has almost 45 of them right now, so they want all in on all their buses, but for us, we want to make sure that it functions for what we need based on the route lengths and times, and you got to factor in cold weather and all of that infrastructure, so.
Yeah, no, it's a great pilot, it's great. Dr. Wilson, you had a question?
Will the board need to approve the purchase of the chargers at another date?
Yeah, once, we have different vendors for that as well. So do we have a question here?
Yeah, Narita, go ahead.
I'm just going to ask, what will the pilot program look like for the buses? And because I want to ride them.
So currently, our transportation director does have a couple of drivers that are a little more in tune with the electric market. So she did want to start with them first to get them driving these buses and kind of work out the kinks. And then from there, I think we would have to look at what is an appropriate use for this electric bus based on mile range, that kind of thing. So we may start small, in between runs, during middays, that kind of thing. And then if it works out from there, we can then, expand out further.
Question is, can narrator ride when they're
She, of
doing
course,
the bus?
Maybe there's an SSAB event that you can get one of the buses for so she can ride in that.
When
Yeah.
when can we expect them to arrive? Ordering them now?
Those ones are a little bit more readily available than the regular, like if you ordered a new gas bus or a diesel bus right now, it's gonna take a year to get. These, I don't know the exact timeline, but I know it's not that long. It may be a few months. Really, the biggest delay might be just waiting on the install of the charger and everything, so.
I just want to know, is Narita going to graduate for her?
We'll tell them
senior.
that we need it by next Monday.
Right, okay. Okay, any other questions? Okay, great. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes, opposed, say no. All right. Thank you. And Aurel, thank you for all the work on the grant writing back there, too. Appreciate that. We've been wanting to try one of these. We're just waiting for the right grant. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Trudell. We got through all that. Okay, so next we have public communications on non-agenda items. We have quite a few of these. We're going to allow 2 minutes for each speaker. And I guess the folks up here, do you want to take a 2-minute bio break before you want to? Yeah, but we'll take like a 4-minute break and then we'll plow through. Okay? Okay, we're going to plow ahead here. Looks like I lost, no, Joey's there, okay. We have quite a few speakers, so as I said, we're going to do 2 minutes for each speaker. Ms. Sané is controlling our little timer there. Unfortunately, our timer only allows a 1 or 3 minutes, so she's going to give you 2 1-minutes. So don't panic when you see the first one going, because she'll give you another minute as we go through. All of our speakers are about one topic, except for the first speaker. I'm going to have him go, and then I want Dr. Macheski. I want to give Dr. Macheski a chance to give everybody an overview of the topic that everybody wants to talk about. If after you hear his update, you don't feel the need to speak, you can just let me know when I call your name. If you say, "Okay, I'm good," we'll just move to the next speaker. But I want to make sure that we give you a full update before we start talking at the mic. So, Mr. Joseph Colby, you are our first speaker. Welcome.
My name is Joseph Colby Bernard. I go by Joey. I'm a clinical social worker and therapist. Additionally, I provide mathematics tutoring up to and including multivariable calculus and applied linear models. I have lived in Troy since 2019. My wife and her 6 siblings are graduates of the Troy School District. My older sister is a TSD graduate, and several of my cousins are graduates of TSD. Currently, my immediate family has 6 children in the Troy School District. I decided to speak today because I wanted to thank President Schmidt, Trustee Wilson, and Secretary Hoff for all of their hard work and dedication and service to our community. During your leadership, we have seen an expansion of AP classes, protections for vulnerable students, and an expansion of mental health services available to students, and much, much more. I have provided tutoring to dozens of Troy students and graduates since I began tutoring in 2022. I have always been in awe of how strong the mathematical and scientific aptitude of TSD students and graduates has been. This is something that this board should be proud of. The hard work and expansive knowledge base that these graduates shows me the dedication that each of you and the Troy Education Association has for the TSD community. Thank you for your service and enduring dedication to our community.
Thank you, Mr. Colby. Okay, so Dr. Macheski, would you like to give us an update on the Attendance Area Review Committee, because it does appear that all the other comments are related to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Let's start with why. We regularly, as a school district, monitor our attendance areas, our enrollment patterns across the school district. Those are monitored annually by Mrs. DiPilato, Mrs. Griefor, myself, Mr. Trudell. We're constantly looking at those. Over the course of the last couple of years, we've seen some increasing disparities occurring in our middle school enrollments. Specifically, we have 2 middle schools that have over 800 students. We have 2 middle schools that are at 600 students. And we saw the enrollment patterns and those trajectories continuing. With New Smith Middle School coming online in fall of 26, we thought this was a great opportunity to bring a group of individuals together to begin to study potential options around 2 goals. The first goal was balancing, if possible, our middle school enrollments. Secondly, looking at addressing what we call splits across the district. So splits would be a scenario where a student might come in with their classmates, and they might split to a different middle school. And in some cases, we have students that split to a different middle school and then split again to a different high school. And where those splits occur, we thought this might be an opportunity to review those as well and try to eliminate or at least reduce those numbers that occur across the Troy School District. So with that, we did an all-call for applications. We had a number of applicants express an interest in being part of the committee. We selected approximately 24 individuals. Those are individuals from across residents, Troy School District residents, from across the city, so representing all areas of the school district, as well as we have a number of principals on that committee who have a background in and experience, obviously, in the feeder patterns that are associated with their particular schools. We brought the committee, the goal was to bring the committee together at 5 times. We started meeting in October. We started with providing data to this group. So the data that this group looked at is they were familiarized with had an opportunity to familiarize themselves with the district map, including our elementary, middle, and high school attendance areas. We had them look at our enrollment patterns across the district over the course of the last several years and projections moving forward. And then we allowed them also we had them also look at the current, what we call feeder patterns. So where youngsters, depending upon where they live within the city, go to elementary, matriculate to middle, and then ultimately to high school, amongst some other data. So that committee has met now 3 times. Again, the intention is for that committee to meet upwards of 5 times. They met 3 times. They have met thus far 3 times. The last meeting, amongst additional data that was provided, they had an opportunity to see one potential option for solution to the goals that were provided them. The intention at the next meeting, at the 4th meeting, which is next Monday, they will see 3, if not 4 additional options. So again, one option was provided at the 3rd meeting, and I think there was an impression that that option was going to be the final option. It is no way intended for it to be the final option. It will be one of multiple options that will be reviewed by the attendance area review committee. Really important to recognize that no decisions have been made. The goal, again, after the 5th meeting, next steps would be this group finalizing options to administration. Administration would take those options, let's say there are 3 to 4, potentially even 5 options. Administration would take those options. We will put those together in a report. That report will be provided to the Board of Education probably in January. That's the time frame that we're working with right now. Will be provided to the board in January for the board's review. At that time, the board would make a decision. They prefer not to move forward with any of the options, or they would suggest that administration move forward and get additional feedback from the community. That feedback would be in the form of administration setting meetings across the district, likely at middle schools, at each of the 4 middle schools, where we would invite the community to come together. We would share the options that have been provided, the pluses and the minuses of each, how each impacts the community and so forth. And then after that, we would gather additional input from the community that are at those meetings. We would gather those meetings. We would gather the input from those meetings and summarize all that, all right, synthesize all that information, and then bring that back to the board for a kind of a final look at all of the information that's been gathered. So by the time the board would look at all of the final information, it would include options that have been provided by our community input through the Attendance Area Review Committee. It would be provided with that was supported with the data that was provided, and then also the information, the input that would be provided by the community through those community meetings. At that point, and only at that point, would the board make a final decision on any attendance area adjustments. It's also important to remember that as part of the goals, there will be no high school impact. The AARC, the Attendance Area Review Committee, was told that they could not look at any adjustments that would impact high school attendance areas. So if you're on the east side of Rochester Road, you would remain at Troy High, or Athens. West side, you would go to Troy High. And of course, IA is still an option for students as a choice across the Troy School District. Also important, one other really important thing to keep in mind is we would not implement any recommendation from the board until fall of 26. We purposefully gave ourselves about 18 months to work through this process because we wanted to make sure that the process was clear, it was transparent, it provided for community input, and that the board had ample opportunity to make a decision based upon the information that would be brought back to the group. So that kind of gives you the why behind it, as well as the process, where we are right now. We are just finished meeting 3 of 5. Meeting 4 will be next Monday. The goal would be to bring back information to the board in January. Community meetings to follow, should that be decided it's necessary. And then a final report probably to the community sometime likely early spring of 25. Okay. So that's where we are right now for the community, for those that are here today, as well as those that will be reviewing the board meeting at a later date. Thank you.
Okay, so again, I'll call your name if you come forward with 2 minutes. And if you could address the board, that would be great. The board won't be responding to you because the goal is to be able to capture anything into the input. So we're having a meeting in public. It's not a dialogue with you, but we will capture your comments. If anybody feels they need to be contacted later, we can do that at a later date, okay? And again, if I call your name and you're like, okay, I think he's kind of covered what I wanted to say, then that's fine. You can just pass on that. So my first person I have in my stack here is Mr. Stephen, is it Carly or Carla?
Yep.
Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Steve Carley. I live in Troy, Michigan. We moved here from Berkeley over 7 years ago. My wife and I did to start a family. We have 2 girls now that are enrolled in Hamilton Elementary. And one of the main reasons why we moved to the area was obviously the community itself and the education that was going to be available to our daughters. And so a very strong reason for that was going to be the opportunity to attend bowling. And so what's come to light, I think, through a disclosure, through a PTA meeting is what we've learned is this study that is now underway. And I think that the communication to date, and I heard what you said, I appreciate the facts thus far, but I think we need to have much more transparency, and I appreciate the timeline that we're looking at, the 18 months, but I think we need to look at within the next 3 months what the impact of the community is going to be. So obviously it's a very diverse community. There's a lot of people and opinions, and I think how the community is found out to date through at least this circle has been a PTA meeting was not the appropriate avenue. It should have been disclosed, I think, in a more public forum such as a board meeting as this. Also, there was a community newsletter that came out recently. A very grainy map was included at the top. Again, just an impression of communication that's not as straightforward as it should be for such a matter that's going to impact so many people. The other thing I want to comment on is going to be the taxable values for the home. We looked at what percentages goes to the direct revenue for the board here and for the teachers. And so when we take a look at home values that could be impacted by this, I think we have to be cognizant of the fact that obviously it's going to affect some positively and some negatively, and that's going to have a lot of opinions from people that need to be considered. So we take a look at how that's going to play out through the duration of just not my children, but the children who come afterwards. I think we need to have a larger community involvement, and I appreciate the transparency today, but I think we need to have more so going forward. And I heard 24 participants. I think we need to enlarge the number of people to reflect all the diverse areas within the city of Troy to be included. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Alvarado Terran. Good evening.
Hello, good evening, Irene. First and foremost, my primary concern is the well-being and the success of our children. And I believe that foremost consideration of any of these committee that has to do is to involve the socioeconomic well-being of our kids. So my question to the committee is, have we really found out why would there be increase in attendance in other schools compared to other schools? So with this being, I tried to pull out some information from mysschooldata.org. And I compared basically Boland Park Middle School and Smith Middle School. And looking at the M step from 2023 to 2024, there is a percent increase, a remarkable increase, like 10% of the total advanced students in Boland compared to Smith Middle School. And I've also looked at the PSAT, the 2023 and 2028. There's a 20% gap in the advanced math in Boland compared to Smith Middle School. So have we really found out the reason why there's an increased enrollment in Boland? And hopefully this reason has to be tackled because otherwise we won't be able to have a long-term solution without really knowing why people are moving to Bulan and not Smith. So I would like the committee to be more transparent on giving us the solution. Why is this so? Because either way, people will relocate if it will not address this problem.
Thank you. Mr. Carlo Adams. Mr. Carlo Adams, hi, good evening.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate the review, Dr. Markeski, that you gave us. That answered a lot of questions. I and my family are Troy residents. We've been here about 10 years. Prior to moving here, we had various neighborhoods and options to choose from. We chose Troy. Other considerations were Rochester, Bloomfield. One of the reasons we chose Troy, one of the stronger reasons, which was, of course, the school district. Not only that, I like sidewalks too. My neighborhood has sidewalks, which I love. But the school was one of the major reasons. So recently, I became aware of this AARC committee, and I was told that there was a potential reassignment of middle school, and I said that couldn't be. Right? I thought it was a joke. I hadn't heard from it. I didn't. I read the paper often. I didn't see any public announcements in the paper of this, so I just wanted to come and express my not concerns but feelings regarding this. I have 3 children in the Troy School District. My oldest daughter goes to Bolin. She is doing wonderfully. As many of you know and heard, it's an amazing school. She has had theater there. She has a social studies teacher named Mr. De Leon, who is very famous and been there for 30 plus years. She just came back from the DC trip, so I see her flourishing and growing. She's also a member of the stock club club, so there's a lot of benefit that I see every day, and I love her growth, and I want my other 2 children to have this. This is not a slight on Smith. I have friends and I have neighbors that go to Smith, but if the board is going to continue with this, I would want some equality between the 2 schools, okay? And my other kids go to Hamilton. I was so proud today of Hamilton School.
Okay, thank you very much. Mrs. Rachel Fleischman. Hi.
My name is Rachel Fleischman, and I would like to address the board tonight to voice my concerns regarding the potential redistricting of Hamilton Elementary School to Smith Middle School. My husband and I have 3 children who would be affected by this change. We spent 3 years house hunting in a very competitive market, deliberately purchasing a home that was assigned to Hamilton Elementary School, Bullen Middle School, and Troy High School. We were previously living in another area of Troy, but moved this past spring so that our children could attend the specific schools known for their superior metrics. As mentioned earlier during the presentation given by the Student Achievement Data Review, it's important that our children are ready to take AP and other advanced classes starting in 9th grade and spanning all 4 years of high school. This was emphasized as being important to colleges. Opportunities across the district do not seem equal, as classes at Bolin are not provided on campus at Smith. Bolin has in-house geometry and algebra 2 classes, where Smith students who want these classes need to take a bus to Troy High. My children has an interest in the arts, and many parents discuss that Bolin's theater program is stronger than Smith's. All of these factors were key in our family's decision to move. There can be a variety of other solutions, which I would encourage the attendance committee to explore. Our neighborhood already has a significant number of students that attend private schools. As an earlier presentation stated, revenue we receive from our schools is also based on enrollment. If we're redistricted to Smith, I think the number of private school attendees will increase, which would likely impact the intent of the committee's plans. We all want what's best for our children, and I think that as parents, we deserve the chance to be part of this decision-making process. We all want Troy to remain a well-respected, high-performing, sought-after school district.
Thank you. Mrs. Yujia Liu. Yugia. Please correct me if I said that incorrectly. Welcome.
Yeah. Hello, good evening. My name is Yoja Liu.
Yoja.
Our family moved to this area in 2013. So with 2 kids graduating years in 2022 and 2026. My family was sad when we heard the rezoning news because to live in the Hamilton, Bowling, and Troy High district was our first choice in 2013 when we moved in. Even sacrificing the bigger or newer houses in the other zone. So we never regretting living in this community, and even with paying the higher house price and higher tax rate, and our both kids enjoyed this area, even the Bowling Park, very much with the multiple unique clubs, and also the in-house convenient high school classes. So there are some of the questions I would like you can consider and take. What are the solid action plans to build the new Smith that is going to equivalent to Bowling Park? And how to share the teachers' resources? And the second, for the impacted family in the by rezone, could you consider to give the option, the either or options, and that let the family can choose the preferred middle school? Third, do you have any opportunity to expand the Bowling Park middle school and to accommodate more enrollments? And we look forward to the TSD's branding school and growing in the best extent. And the other thing, the last, from the decline enrollment in the other school district, and how to attain the school enrollment rate and attain the new enrollment, attracting the new enrollments might be another consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Mr. Supid Das. Sudip. I'm sorry. I mixed the D and the P here. Good evening.
Dr. Macheski, appreciate the update. Just to let everybody know, I first heard the rumor about the Hamilton students being reassigned to Smith from other parents who attended the Smith PTO meeting. Then I went to the Hamilton PTO meeting, and then we saw the official email come out last Friday. Just to give you a background about myself, I actually grew up in Troy. I went to Martell, Smith, and Troy High myself. When my wife and I were looking for a home to settle down with our 3 kids, Troy, my experience in Troy basically made us decide this is the place to be. We were assigned, our house is assigned to Hamilton, Bowling, and Troy High. I really think that is the best place for our kids to be. Given Troy's reputation, the schools are well known, very well respected, but the reality is there's tiers within the schools. We chose Bowling specifically, and a lot of people deliberately choose their home in Troy based on the schools that they're assigned to. So based on the rumor of the Hamilton students all being assigned to Smith, I do want to ask some questions of why, when 70% of the students of Hamilton are attending Bowling today, why the choice is to take that 70% and move it to Smith versus the 30 and bringing it to Bowling. I'm aware that there are students who don't attend Bemis, Schroeder, or Hamilton that are assigned to Bowling Middle School. So my question would be, why aren't those students assigned to the middle schools that track to the elementary school that they're attending? The last thing is, I'm open to proposals of reassigning the schools, but I would like opportunities for existing Troy families to be grandfathered into the choices that they made when they purchased their home. I'm also open to addressing the inequalities that currently exist across our schools. There's known differences across the schools. I know somebody else already mentioned it. Smith versus Bowling. Smith does not have French or geometry in-house versus Bowling. I guess my final statement is I think the district should focus on addressing those inequities that exist between the schools before attempting to use our students to resolve them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Yan Jin. Ms. Yan Jin. Good evening. Welcome.
Hi. Good evening, respected board members and district administrators. My name is Yan, and I am a resident of Chelsea Village. I have lived in my home for over 11 years. Like many of my neighbors, we choose to live there because of the excellent school of our area. More specifically, Hamilton Elementary School, Bowling Park Middle School, and Troy High School. I'm here to express my objection to the proposed redistricting plan to move my subdivision from Bowling Park Middle School to Smith Middle School. Over a decade ago, we searched many homes in Troy. Some were on the market with better conditions or lower prices, but they were outside of the Bowling Park attendance area. We ended up buying our current home because even though it was not the lowest price or it's not the best condition. Why? Because we all prioritize the Bowling Park as they're excellent in education and academics. So in the latest US news, Bowling Park ranks number 8 in the Michigan, and the Smith ranks number 43. And 78% of students are proficient in math and 80% of in reading for Bowling Park. And this number are 63% and 71% for Smith, respectively. The difference of the overall ranking and academic performance are significant. A study showed that within the suburban neighborhood, a 5% improvement in test score can raise the home value by 2.5%. So we all paid more for better school academic performance. This situation wasn't just unique for us. Many families in our area share similar value and we make similar decisions. This proposed redistricting plan threatens to distract these carefully made decisions. Plus, they will depreciate our home value and cause negative consequential financial impact to our communities.
Thank
I
you.
hope that more
Thank you.
communication, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I hope that the school district hear our voice.
Thank you.
and,
We hear.
have
We,
more plan. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Zumai Lee. Zumai, am I saying it correctly? Exume. Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, members of the school board, staff, and fellow parents. First, I'd like to say congratulations, Dr. Recker. Thank you so much for the great achievement for our Hamilton community. Thank you for all your contribution and the dedication for our kids. And I'm a Hamilton Elementary School parent, and I have been living here for more than 10 years. And I'm a mom of 3 kids, 5th grade, 1st grade, grader, and my younger son is going to pre-K. I'm here tonight to share the some opinions about the redistriction concern for the Hamilton and Bowling. So we also purchased, like many parents, we also purchased a house because of the high reputation of Hamilton, Bowling, and Troy High. And right now we feel deeply worried about the potential redistricting and the impact of the quality of education and also our property value, which could affect the future of our entire community. Thank you, Dr. Machesky. You just mentioned about the transparency, and also you would like to communicate with us, our parents, to get fully participated in. You would give us enough time to participate in all the process and talk about the details. And so if the redistrict is going to move forward, we need to get clear and detailed information. And so we want to know what's this change happening, what's going to happen to teacher assignments and the curriculum, and how will the new facility, like the classroom, ensure the safety standards. Because for the new buildings, there would be a lot of chemical, it will be toxic for the children. So we need to consider about that as well. And also for the tax rate, if the tax rates will going down, so the residents get the compensation, and we should have more open choice. Thank you very much for your patience. Yeah.
Jin Zhang.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
I'm here to express my concern of proposed plan to rezone Hamilton graduates to Smith Middle School instead of Bowling Park Middle School. First, let's consider about the impact of our children of a daily commute. The travel time to Bowling Park Middle School is about 5 minutes. And the Smith Middle School takes 12 minutes. And also we need to add the traffic lights and traffic congestion, and the commute often stretches to 20 minutes or more. Factoring in multiple stops, and then the entire commute will be 40 minutes one way. This change makes the additional 20 minutes per student daily, and 180 hours unnecessary travel per students in total, and also 9,000 hours for 50 students over 3 years. The extended commute also leads to increased fatigue and also less quality time for parents and family and for studies, and the loss of productivity. Additionally, it involves more like gas use and vehicle wear and tear, driver labor expenses. Those all come from taxpayers' money, and also more risk of safety for our children. Secondly, let's consider about academic standing. Bowling Park Middle School is ranked 8th in Michigan by U.S. News, and Smith Middle School is ranked 43rd. Lastly, many families, just including us, have made a significant financial investments in our home based on the established education pathway from Hamilton to Bowling Park Middle School. I'll be very quick. Rezoning will devalue our property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So please consider about all the facts that we suggest. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Lauren Haroun, I think it's Haroun, Haroun?
Yes.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk today. Actually, me and my family moved to this country 2 years ago for a better education for our kids. And then we choose very carefully our neighborhood to be attending in Hamilton and Bowling, as we have also another experience in the elementary school in Troy also district, where we find that Hamilton way better, and they give us, thank you for Dr. Rockard and all the staff, a very good, careful for our kids and helping us to be integrated more in the community. And also I have 3 kids, actually, twins is attending in the 5th grade and 1 in 4th grade. As I understand now that it will apply by 2026. So is it that mean that 2 of my kids will attending in Bowling and then the other kid will attend in the Smith? I think it's not fair for my kids to have a different educational level. Even my small kids now is telling the twins that it's not fair for me to have less education than you. As even our kids know that Bowling in the ranking is better way by Smith. So please consider that, as we paid a lot for this condo actually, that we are very new to this country, even to afford a house in Troy and this tax, just because we want our kids to be well educated and to have a better future than us in our country, which is Syria. We have a lot of war and you know our situation. So please consider that, because I cannot send someone to school and the others to school, and this is not convenient for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. John Zhu. Oh, your time's up. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome, welcome.
So thank you for the opportunity. I guess I don't want to repeat all the points that other people make. And the only thing I want to say is we need to consider the students' opinion, their feelings. Basically, we're talking about how the parents feel, right? Have we asked our students where do they want to be, right? So I think that's my point, and also along with other great parents' points. Yeah, I moved here in 18 because of the same reason, like others. So thank you.
Thank you. And then is it Brian? I think it's Mr. Brian Brown.
My spelling's not that bad.
No, it's.
Brian, you pronounce it right. You got it.
Yeah, no. I just couldn't see the first name.
My name is Brian Brown. I'm a resident
Good
of
evening.
Troy. My children go to Hamilton. I have a 3rd grader and a 4th grader at Hamilton and a 7th grader at Bolin Park. I don't want to spend too much time repeating what other people have said today, but I do think what is important that has resonated with me is a lot of people have an expectation interest when they invested in their home. It's the biggest investment that many of us will make in our lives, and especially to move into Troy, into this school district. And I ask you to consider that expectation interest and the massive investment that people have made to move into this specific school district. I want to share a couple positive things at Bolin. Other people have spoken about the very positive, excellent educational outcomes, and I think the scores and the ratings bear that out. But I also think a school is much more than just its ratings. It's a very strong school community. As I've learned with my daughter in 7th grade and my younger kids already looking forward to attending that school. And I know 18 months seems like a long time, but it is a very short period of time for those kids who are expecting to go to Bolin and are now changing. And that's 70% of the school, as someone else pointed out. I also want to address splits. When I moved here, I thought it was a very strange thing that the schools are going to be split like this. But I have found it to be a very, very positive thing as my kids get to know friends from other schools, and then their friends from elementary school go to the other school and then mix. And so I think it broadens the experience of the community and is actually a very beneficial thing to have those splits in a counterintuitive way. So thank you. I also say if you do make this change, I ask that it be phased in over time, longer than 18 months, and that you consider adding additional resources to Smith to help bring them up to the excellent standards that Bolin has set, whether that be extra faculty or extra staff to supplement what they have right now. It is strange to me that they both have 17-to-1 school ratio, but there's this imbalance. So thank you all for your consideration, and thank you to the other parents for speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay, so that moves us to other. Diana, why don't we start with you? How are things going over at Athens right now?
Good evening, members of the board, staff, students, and families. Thank you for the opportunity to share some recent updates from the Athens High School community. First, our fall theater production, Shrek, the musical, opened on November 15th and has had 5 successful performances so far. Today, we held a successful student matinee, and tomorrow we will welcome students from local elementary schools to come watch the show. We have upcoming performances this weekend on Friday, November 22nd at 8 p.m., Saturday, November 23rd at 8 p.m., and Sunday, November 24th at 3 p.m., and I encourage you to see it if you have not already. In athletics, our fall sports season finished up with some accomplishments, such as our girls volleyball team became OOA white champions and advanced to the district finals. We also had 2 state qualifiers in cross country. As we shift to winter sports, tryouts have taken place over the last 2 weeks. Additionally, our Science Olympiad team opened their season as co-host of a tournament at Saline High School, while our HOSA team competed at regionals at Troy High on November 16th, where 55 students qualified for the state competition. On the community front, our student council has started the process of selecting a charity for our upcoming charity week, with 3 finalists set to present their cases. Finally, the National Honor Society application window is now open, and we are looking to induct new members in January. And that concludes the latest updates from Athens High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Diana? Okay, I'm going to jump over to Christian. You didn't expect that, did you?
So a few things we had going on at TPC this month. We're doing some fundraising for Operation Blue Sleigh and Team Clean Closet. Operation Blue Sleigh is basically just the Troy community giving back to the Troy community. Hopefully we don't ruin any Christmases because we are packing presents into cars It didn't go so well last year. We might have ruined 2 families, but better hopes this year. And Team Clean Closet is just to support teen hygiene going forward for kids that may not have access to it. Some things going on in our wood shop class or school shop renovations where we're making it look like a more inviting and kind of a more cafe vibe for people to have. And just today we finished going on a Home Depot field trip that we got to kind of learn what the point is and what the, maybe if you go into construction, why you might be going there, what you might be buying, and different ways to navigate.
It's a good field trip.
And third, or just some couple random things, Bookmobile. The Troy Public Library has created a bookmobile that is going around started at our high school, I believe, might have been at the middle schools and elementary. I don't know. I think Friday it's going to Troy High and Athens. I could be wrong on that, but that's what they told me. And then, so that was cool. You get to rent out, if you have a library card, rent out a book, and they'll come by next month and pick it up. And if you don't, they have a couple, I don't know what it'd be called, but like free book, not free. You're renting it, but if you don't have a library card, you can still get a few books. And third, we're having our Thanksgiving feast again this year. So that's just, I threw that in there. Oh, and also Morgan still goes to our school. That was just asked to be thrown in, but yeah, that's everything.
Okay, so tell me about, did you go out into the bookmobile? Because I saw that it was going, like, how many books are in it? How big is this thing?
It's like an electrician's van.
Oh,
like,
okay.
It's just full of books. There's like everything.
Oh, wow,
They even
okay.
have like video games you could rent out. There's a pretty wide selection.
Wow,
It's pretty
okay.
cool.
All right, cool. So you were laughing about Home Depot, but was it worthwhile?
It was
sounds like
worthwhile, yes. We did get to learn a lot about Home Depot and why it may be beneficial to, in your future, know where you're shopping, what you're shopping for, little intricacies, and how to tell where you're going.
Is that Mr. Flessa did that? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Of
Yep.
course it was.
You know
yeah.
it. He would have been a salesman in that place. Yeah. I was like, I feel like buying everything right now. I don't really have funds. I'm a high school student, but you got me hooked.
All right, that's cool. Okay, great.
Do you want to buy or buy and build?
Buy and build, yes.
He wants to do both. He's got the confidence. Okay, great. Narita, you want to take us through IA?
All right. Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all having a terrific Tuesday. It has been a fall-tastic month at IA East with big events and club activities. At the beginning of the month, our Indian American Student Association hosted its annual Diwali dinner to celebrate the Hindu Festival of Lights. There were multiple lit dance performance acts, followed by a dazzling, delicious dinner. Last Wednesday, Peer Corps hosted its first event for the new IA East Mentor-Mentee program. All freshmen and their upperclassmen mentors played a Thanksgiving-themed version of The Price is Right. Making wild guesses together and realizing that no one had ever purchased a turkey really strengthened relationships and friendships in mentor-mentee groups. In terms of other extracurricular happenings, our Model United Nations team had its first conference on November 9th. We took over 50 delegates to the conference to debate the global implications of reimagining data access, and students unlocked new skills in the realm of research persuasive speaking. Last Saturday, our Health Occupation Students of America chapter, more commonly known as HOSA, took over 200 aspiring health professionals to our regional leadership conference. 84 of our students placed as one of the top 7 competitors in their events to qualify for the state leadership conference. Needless to say, these HOSA members injected some serious skill into their work from heart to finish. Last but certainly not least, after 3 months of preparation, Drama Club is excited to kick off the opening night of its musical, the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, this Friday. The evening will feature beyond hilarious scenes, so make sure to bring your clipboards and give all of our spellers an A+. And before I end, I wanted to let everyone know about the Troy School District Staff versus Students basketball game that will be happening on Wednesday, December 4th at Athens. The game will feature staff members from across the district and students from all 4 of our high schools. The event will be hosted by the Superintendent Student Advisory Board and will be fundraising for our annual Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. We would love for our community members to join us and cheer on our players for a good cause. For more information on the players that will be participating, game details, and a link to purchase tickets in advance, please look out for more information in the District Weekly Update and the SSAB Instagram. Personally, I am looking forward to watching the student team win with Dr. Macheski as our captain. And that is all that I have with current news from IA East and the district. Thank you.
Thank you. That was fantastic. Does anybody have any questions for Narita?
I have a question, Narita. What time is your Friday musical?
The musical, I believe, will be happening at 7 p.m., but there will be more information on our school website.
Okay, great. Thank you. And last but not least, Adam, welcome back.
All right. Good evening, everyone. We have lots going on at Troy High School, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to share with you all. First up, as mentioned at our last meeting, we have a school objective. Our vision for the year is to unify the Troy High community and all of its different groups. We've started to see this more and more, which we are insanely proud of. For example, yesterday, Monday, November 18th, our personal communication classes executed their annual dodgeball event, and we'll have the final teams play on Friday during the pep assembly. We are so incredibly proud of the program's achievement, and the event will raise money for Cass Community for Social Services, the dodgeball charity of choice. On Saturday, Troy High hosted HOSA chapters, from the surrounding area in regional competition level. I'd like to give a special shout out to HOSA advisor Dr. Griezmann and to all the teachers that made their classrooms extra clean for some weekend guests. Additionally, our leadership program is working on some returning events and some new ones. Senior Sidekick will be November 26th during school, where underclassmen draft seniors to spend the day before Thanksgiving break together. Oftentimes we see seniors dressing up, playing music in the halls, bringing their sidekicks breakfast, etc., creating an awesome day at Troy High School. Next, on December 8th, the program will host the Senior Citizen Matinee, where senior citizens from the community will come for a luncheon and the Troy High Theater Ensemble's White Christmas play. If you or anyone you know would like to attend, please contact Troy High School Student Government or myself while spaces remain. Next, from the Leadership and Student Government program is a brand new event, the Troy High Culture Fair. With such a diverse student body, we want to provide a space for students to learn about other cultures, that they can immerse themselves in cultural exchange. This will take place on December 18th during all lunches, and students will be able to share and embrace their cultures in a club fair-like event. And the last of many projects in the works from the Student Government and Leadership Program is Activist Week. This is Troy High's annual charity week, and the student body is now voting on the charity of this year's Activist Week. Candidates include the WAVE Project, Team Guts, Love for a Child, and Haven in honor of former student Jess Ursuline. And we will have results tomorrow night when the form closes, so check out at Troy High Stugo on Instagram for that information. From the counseling department, we have Colts Giving, which is a new initiative promoting gratitude and widespread gratitude throughout student lives. From peer mediation, we have the annual toy drive for Toys for Tots to make the holidays more and more special each year. Thank you to all student and staff groups in realizing this initiative of school unity and community giving. For fall sports, as the season finishes, our fall sports teams were recognized on all sorts of levels for their incredible performance throughout the season. Cross-country teams sent 3 athletes to states, Maddie Miller, Audrey Hamilton, and All-State Keon Schneewis. The boys soccer team reached regional finals, as well as the boys tennis program. And girls golf athlete Madison Malafant reached state finals. The girls volleyball team reached district finals with all region seniors Bea Colon and Anna Rich, as well as the Troy United boys water polo program reaching districts. As for winter sports, we have tryouts last week, and the Troy United hockey team defeated Bishop Foley in season opener game, so congratulations to them. We are waiting for the season to get into full swing, so I will have way more for you in December. Overall, regarding athletics, I'd like to express my immense gratitude for and pride in Mrs. Karen Baird, our new athletic director at Troy High School. She works tirelessly to deliver consistent athletic planning throughout the year, which is often taken for granted. And finally, we have our grant at work section. We are looking at the bond that we saw get passed, I believe, last year. We are still undergoing parking lot renovations with the athletics lot under construction as the stadium space will be expanded. And we are starting to see some of the new auxiliary facilities being used. As for new furniture, we've been testing new adaptive seating in 4 classrooms in social studies and English departments. Students have had some mixed feelings about the new furniture, but it's nice to see the grant creating new spaces for students. And last but not least, go Colts.
Great. Any questions for Adam? Are you in any of the pilot furniture classrooms?
I am not, but
I wonder, like, what are you hearing in terms of pros and cons?
Yeah,
just out of curiosity.
I think for cons, a lot of people have found it being a little bit crowded, but it gets very nice when your teachers send you into creative time, independent reading. You have options to go sit around. I am not in any of the classes, but we explored these spaces in our student advisory board meetings with Ramo Ronconi, the principal. So that was nice to see, sort of explore not having the opportunity to actually be in class settings.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Quick
Go
question. Have you had a chance to use the athletic fields, the new changes? How do you like it?
I'm not the athletic type. Good question, though. My brother has. He plays soccer, and he really loves the athletic fields. We are working on access for those fields just because it is sort of a precious thing that we like to hold, and we don't want ruined right away. But access to those access to those is being sort of spread out. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Nice to see everything is in full swing at all our buildings. I'm going to move to Dr. Wilson.
Yeah, I went and saw Shrek last weekend. They do a great job, so if you have a chance, go see Shrek. And then I'm excited. The Spelling Bee's a hilarious show, and then White Christmas. So all the musicals are in full swing. This is also holiday concert season, so you can see bands, orchestras, choirs, all the fun stuff, all the showcase of students. It's fun to see the arts. Due to a scheduling conflict, this is my last board meeting, so I just want to say thank you to everybody. It's been a pleasure to serve with you, and good luck to the new board.
Great.
Since it was your last meeting, Dr. Wilson, Mr. Hoff, Mr. Schmidt, I just wanted to, I know I'm going to see you before the end of the year, but I just wanted to thank you for your service for the last, how many years you've been here. My family's been here for 7 years, and you've all been here on the school board. And we're really proud of what you have done, and I'm just honored to be part of this board with all 3 of you, and I just hope, good things for you moving forward. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I always have something. I'm going to start with the redistricting. I do want to acknowledge that I'm sure to all of us, but several parents, have reached out to me. So I do appreciate people, reaching out. I want to say, Dr. Macheski went through what the plan is, nothing was officially presented at a PTO meeting. That was because the committee has not finished the work. So that presenting wasn't presenting of the committee itself. And I do just want to encourage everybody, if, as Dr. Macheski says, the board has not received any recommendations yet, or any proposed plans, and so none of us are able to speak to any of that at this time. So my only thing that I would encourage people to do is, once we get that information, if we then, as a district, proceed to the next stage of community engagement, come out and engage with us. And so that's all that, that we can encourage the community to do at this stage in the process. And I have every intention, everybody who contacted me, I'll be contacting everybody in the next couple of days. So I want to appreciate thank the community for engaging with us. I do also want to thank the community for passing the millage. And I do want to, congratulate and say welcome to our new board members, Dr. Audra Melton, Ayessa Potts, and Stephanie Zendler. And then on that, I thought it was going to be Mr. Schmidt's last meeting, but it turns out it's also Dr. Wilson's. But I think what I wrote applies to both of them. I've enjoyed serving with Carl and Nicole, and I will miss you both dearly. You both took your role very seriously, and you gave a lot of yourself, more than most people know. I think most people see us at this one meeting, but a lot goes into serving on the Troy School Board, and not every district is the same. We attend a lot of conferences, a lot of meetings, we do lots of school visits, we lobby to the state legislature, we lobby to the federal government. As volunteers, we actually, as a group, do quite a lot. And I would say that, in many ways, Carl took the lead on that. So I think that will be greatly missed. And both of you leave a really rich legacy behind. One that includes the preschool that so many of your families are a part of, and the new TCCH Center, which is not only a benefit to our high school students that are there, but also to the entire Troy community. That's where we house English, that's where the English as a second language classes are for adults, and all sorts of things that are offered to the community. So I think you leave that not just for the families that are connected to the school district, but for the entire Troy community. So that's it. I want to say thank you, and we are, as a community, better for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Last Thursday, November 7th, my colleague, Mrs. Vitale, and I attended the National Merit Awards at Troy High. We have a record of 70 students, well-deserved, studious, high-achieving, that we honored in our ceremony there. It was an honor to do that again this year. I can remember in years past we were lucky to gather maybe 30, but due to the hard work, the great work from our teachers, from parents, now we have 70 who are going on to higher levels of achievement in their life. And I know that our world and our community will be in better hands because of their hard work and their studious efforts in the classroom. The parents were beaming, the students were beaming. It was a well-deserved honor for 70 of our great students that achieved this honor. And even for those who came a little bit short and were not honored for their service as one of the National Merit finalists, they deserve recognition too for their hard work and study habits and so forth. But our community and our world will be a better place now because here we are with more students who have achieved a much higher level of learning, and we're in a better place right now. Don't you agree? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sunday?
All right. I'm going to try and not repeat what my colleagues have said, but a lot has happened since the last board meeting. Can't believe it's only a month ago. But I first want to start off by thanking President Smith, Secretary Mr. Hoff, and Dr. Wilson for their years of service here. Over 25 for some, over 12, 16, 12?
13.
13, and over 6 for Dr. Wilson. And definitely the students in the community for your years of service. You've been great mentors to me from the day you appointed me 4 years back, and I'm extremely fortunate to be working with you guys who have so much knowledgeable and dedicated board members. We will definitely miss your knowledge, advocacy, and commitment to our students and to our district. Okay.
Thank you.
Since the last meeting, several of us attended the Michigan School Board's conference, and we've learned a lot of things over there, many to do with technology use, improving school lunches, esports, developing better teachers, and so on. And our Dr. Wilson and Mr. Smith have presented as well, went very well. Thank you so much for everything you do. November 1st, we all celebrated Diwali, and happy Diwali for all of those who've celebrated. And it was a teacher professional development day, but the community got to get a day off. This was the first time we had that, and it was a product of all of this board working together with the TEA to make that happen. So a lot of things like that have happened with this board. Last week, like Mr. Hoff said, I've attended the National Merit Scholarship Student Recognition. I have it as 69, you have it as 70, but we're not going to fight. But we celebrated 69 of our students, including our own narrator. Congratulations. Proud of every one of our students in our district, and all the teachers and the staff and the parents who have helped make these students get where they are. And finally, I want to wish all our families happy Thanksgiving. It's coming next week. Time to be thankful for all the things we have and we take for granted. Thankful for our health, our families, our great teachers, amazing schools. Spend quality time with your family and relax.
Thank you, Ms. Ade. Dr. Macheski.
I just want to, I want to say I did not forget Mr. Hoff, but since it is not his last meeting, my send-off for him will be...
It's just in rough draft form now. She's going to be working on that for another month.
No, it's not a rough draft form. It's the last meeting. Statement. No, but that's, I didn't...
No offense taken.
Dr. Macheski.
Mr. Schmidt, thank you. Board members, as always, have shared a lot of, have already shared much of what I was going to say, so I will keep it brief, except for to say that I'm going to save my goodbyes for a later date, but echo the comments that have been made in terms of the support and the dedicated service of the 3 exiting board members who leave this board at the end of December. And I'm going to save comments for another time specific to the 3 of you. That said, Adam, I had a chance to referee last night the dodgeball game. That was a lot of fun. It was very spirited. Diana, I had a chance to, and echo what Dr. Wilson said about Shrek, I had a chance to take 2 grandchildren to Shrek, and they sat through pretty much the whole 2.5 hours, but they really enjoyed it. And we have our business roundtable that will meet this Thursday at Baker Middle School at 8 o'clock. We're looking forward to bringing that. That is, for the audience, that is a group of business officials from around Troy. So these are business persons, represent various businesses from around Troy that are our sounding board. They have also helped us put together our CAPS program, which is our pre-internship program. We engage with those individuals on a quarterly basis. We're looking forward to meeting with them again this Thursday as we learn from them what they need and want from graduates of the Troy School District, and we likewise then have an opportunity to share with them the great things that are happening across the Troy School District. So look forward to presenting to that group on Thursday. That's all I have.
Okay. Forget that comes to me. I was just going to do a quick goodbye, and then I thought, what would Narita do? And there's no way Narita would do a quick goodbye. And I thought, hey, all of you know I'm a crier up here, so I thought I got to have some fun with this, or I'm going to be blubbering. Most of you up here know I'm kind of a numbers jock, a data jock, and so I thought, let's go out by the numbers. So I kind of thought through some numbers that I think have been really fun over the last 13 years, and I think they reflect kind of some of the things, the contributions that have been near and dear to me. So the first one, we're going to start with plus 20, plus 20, plus 1.2, and plus 3. That's the increase in weight, blood pressure, A1C, and daily medications that I've added over the past 13 years of school board stress. I had my annual visit to my cardiologist last week, and he asked me if owning a business was stressful. And I said, yes, but there's this beloved hobby that I've been told to give up in January that is probably a much greater contributor to my life stress. So that's my first number. Then we have 282. That's the number of meetings since I was sworn in, and by my count, I have missed 3. So that puts my attendance to date at 98.6%. I'm out for both meetings next month, so consider that senior skip day, and it drops my percentage to 97.9%, and I think I should still get a good attendance certificate. I'm just saying, okay? 13, that's the number of years that we've maintained a healthy fund balance of above 15% and prevented the need for short-term borrowing to cover expenses when waiting for reimbursement from the state. I'm proud of that. 6, by my count, that's the number of teacher contracts negotiated with my input. Every single one has been a tight spot between what our people need financially and what the state has been willing to provide. So it's always been a challenge, but I've been proud that we've been able to provide good contracts for the last 13 years. 5.3%, that's the effective per pupil increase this school year in state funding, and I'm going to hammer on this again. That is more than double what the governor recommended in February. I'm proud to say Dr. Macheski and I went to Lansing in March and challenged the state Senate Appropriations Chair, Senator Sarah Anthony, to break with the governor and give us what we needed. That meeting eventually led to a groundswell of support across every education organization in the state and added $4 million to our budget this year. That increase helped us wipe out a looming structural budget. So it wasn't small change. This really made a big difference for us. 25, that's the number of books I've read since coming on board relating to education, policy, leadership, community building, inclusion, and childhood trauma. I know because when I had insomnia last night at 2:30, I went into my home office and counted the books because I didn't know what else to do because I wasn't sleeping. I'm actually reading book number 26 right now. It's called Deep Secrets, Boys, Friendships, and the Crisis of Connection. You're lucky I'm only getting into it now because it's a great follow-up to The Anxious Generation, and if I was here in January, I'd be ordering all of you copies right now. So I'll order you right now. I still may order you copies as we go through. Another 13, that's the number of years I've been the board's liaison with Troy Youth Assistance. That's that TYA connection has led to more numbers, like 4 years as the TYA chairperson, 7 years as the executive board's advisor, 1 year as a mentor to a Larson middle schooler, and then 2 years as an accidental foster parent for that boy after he was arrested and couldn't return home. So I'm warning whoever takes over as TYA liaison, you might end up with a son out of the deal. So just beware of that if you volunteer for that. 62, that's the number of AP stats sections I visited over the years to do a unit on applying stats to market research in late May after everyone's brains have been fried on the AP exam. These sessions have been a lot of fun. We use data from district surveys that are used to predict voters' reactions to requests for 2 bonds in our sinking fund. Spoiler alert, the surveys accurately predicted all election outcomes, but the kids had to figure out how to interpret the data and make a recommended action before I showed them the election results. Another number from that experience, 1, that represents a skinny but energetic Troy High sophomore who came up to me 3 years ago after class and asked for a job and then came to work for me. All of you, Nish Palapu, who later became our student rep and a varsity tennis star. Oh, and 2, that's the number of references I wrote for Nish that contributed to his appointment as state DECA president for Michigan and his acceptance into an elite summer business program at UPenn between his junior and senior year. Love that. Love me some Nish. He's great. 26, that's my personal record for the number of classroom visits during March's reading month. And that was, I did that in 2022, and it greatly annoyed all my employees who wondered where I was most days, but it also filled my heart with record joy. I'd love to read to the kids. And then another related number to that, 67, that's the number of picture books over the past 5 years that I purchased and distributed to Troy Classroom libraries after visiting to read. So I will miss that immensely. 17, that's the number of state and national conferences I've attended during my time on the board, including the Michigan Association of School Board Leadership Conference, the National School Board Association Annual Conference, the Advocacy Conference in Washington, D.C., the National People of Color Conference, National Equity Project Training, and JEDI Inclusion Training here in Oakland County. And a related number, 4, is the number of conference presentations I made showcasing the great work we do here. My most interesting one track me on this, that represents a grad that TCCHS administration flagged for me as needing some help 3 years ago after he finished high school. It turns out he was secretly living by himself in the family house after his mom had been deported 2 years before. I ended up helping him complete the FAFSA, apply for college, pack up his family home in his storage, put him on a plane to Albania to spend time with his mom, act as power of attorney in the closing of their house, and deposit the proceeds into their bank account. Then I picked him up from the airport months later, housed him for 3 months, taught him how to drive a car, took him to MSU for orientation, and then moved him into his dorm. He's now a sophomore at MSU on a full scholarship. So that's my most interesting one out of the last 13 years. 600, that's the number of pieces of candy I throw at every homecoming parade. It took me 3 years to figure out how many pieces I needed to reach the end of each parade route without running out. And then some big numbers. How about 716 million? That's the number, that's the amount of money I've worked hard to raise for the district across 2 bonds and 1 sinking fund election. Or 10 million, that's the amount of money we saved by purchasing the ITT building and modernizing it for TCCHS and community ed. A related number, 87%, that's the reduction in TCCHS dropouts since our new spectacular space there opened. 70, that's the number of acres we're finally set to restore and preserve in perpetuity for our entire community as Oakland County Park's largest nature preserve. Related number, $2 million. That's the revenue the district will realize when this transfer happens at the end of December, and that will be paid to us by the Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund. I'm still hoping the district will use those funds to create some natural grassland wildflower features at our school buildings. That's what I was going to do if I stayed on the board. And 8, that's the number of years I've been shepherding this project along since our public survey indicated the community wanted us to protect that unique resource. So that's 8 years there. Okay, almost done. Stay with me. Okay. How about my personal favorite sequence? You ready? 32 million, 24 million, 8 million, 300,000, 700, 62%, and 50%. Okay? That's $32 million to build a new preschool. $24 million in land sales to offset that cost. That was a move that started this whole process when I asked a simple question of administration in an annual district vacant land review. And I said, can we translate these assets into a more strategic use that reinforces our mission? And that's when the idea of the preschool came back to us the following month. So $8 million is the resulting mortgage on the preschool because we used the $24 million land sales to buy down the cost. And that translated into a self-sustaining facility that contributes at least $300,000 back into our K-12 general fund every year. The 700 represents the number of kids currently enrolled in our preschool, which makes 62% the reduction in kindergartners entering Troy schools without a quality preschool experience. And finally, the 50% represents the reduction in K-12 students being treated for specific disabilities as a result of our preschool early interventions. So that's my favorite sequence of numbers, I think, of the last 13 years. And I have one final number, and that's 1,300. That's the total number of dollars the district will have paid me in honorariums by the time I leave. So if you subtract out parade candy and picture book purchases from that, I think I'm in the hole by a couple $1,000s. So make no mistake, this position does not pay well. I'm just going to tell you that. If I only had the receipts, I could submit them to business services for reimbursement, but I don't think that Dan would pay me anyway. Okay, I'll stop. So my point in all this is that I've had an amazing adventure for the last 13 years here, and often it's been said, that adventure has been because I said yes to anyone who asked me to do something that would benefit one of, I'm going to cry now, benefit one of our kids, even if it wasn't in my job description. Looking back at some of these numbers helped me see how much impact one person can have on a system even as large as the Troy School District. So, my wonderful colleagues, the new trustees joining in January, thank you all for your service. And remember to keep saying yes, because the asks will just keep coming. They will. To the entire administration, thank you for the honor of serving with you and for your unrelenting service to the children of Troy. And take note, I may tap you for an occasional lunch date, so get your excuses lined up now. Now I'm done. Okay, well, I almost made it through. Okay, so with that, we have the December workshop is on December 3rd, and that is in the administration building at 6 o'clock, and then we'll be back here. I won't be back here, everybody else will be back here on the December 17th for the regular December meeting, and that will start at 7 p.m. Okay. Did I miss anything? All right, well then class dismissed. Thank you all.